Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Being the Marshmallow, Living and Coping with PTSD. I am, as always, Bob Wagner. Back in the studio with me today is Pete. Hello. And Blimey. Avast, mateys. Good to be here. Real quick recap of what's been going on the past week or so. Like I said in the previous video, I got married on Wednesday, June the 29th at a certain science fiction convention that takes place here in town. Some of you may have decided to join this program specifically as a result of a PTSD panel that I put together at the convention, and they got really great response. By the way, if you're one of the people who actually watched that, who actually attended that panel, thank you so much. I really hope I was able to help you. Got a lot of great feedback from it, and I will be speaking excuse me, little tickle there. There's a little phenomenon called con crud that I'm trying not to get, but that's trying to establish itself in my chest. Getting back on track, like I said, got a lot of great responses from attendees of that panel, and I'm going to be speaking to friends of mine in the organizational chain of command for the convention about making this an ongoing thing, because I had multiple people saying this needs to be a yearly recurring thing, and so I'm going to. The wedding itself was amazing. Real simple ceremony, few laughs, some poignant moments. I bawled like a baby when I gave my vows. My beautiful wife was so gorgeous I could barely think looking at her. After that, there was cake and whiskey and various fun things happening over at the reception. It was a great time. This is what the ring looks like. Lovely sterling silver Celtic knotwork ring, all the way from Dublin, Ireland. That was a donation from somebody who requested that they remain anonymous for the donation. You know who you are. Thank you very much. Couple of episodes ago, I talked about anxiety and the difference between fear and anxiety. And I want to revisit that today. To revisit, just to do a little recap, fear is a rational, proportionate response. There goes the cat walking through the background. To specific stimuli. All right, you're on a roller coaster. There's, somebody jumps out and says "boo," things like that. Anxiety tends to be more disproportionate, not strictly necessarily a rational response, and it is very often in response to amorphous, non-specific stimuli, just general worries that get dialed up to 11. Okay, and the problem is our body doesn't know the difference between, frankly, baseless, irrational fears about work, or did I leave the burner on when I checked the thing 5 times, things like that, and a tiger coming out of the tall grass and going, "Hi there, you're my lunch," okay, reacts the same way. So I want to talk about dealing with anxiety and dealing with coping with it, because if you have PTSD or indeed several other types of mental illness, this is an ongoing thing, and it is very real. It puts a lot of strain on you psychologically, and it can also put a lot of strain on you physically. It can affect things like your heart. You can suffer heart problems from it. I personally have some really serious gastrointestinal issues as a result of it. You can get migraines because your shoulders clench up all the time, and you have a perpetual tension headache. You may find yourself unable to sleep from it, and when we don't sleep, we suffer. First off, it gets harder to cope with our emotional issues, and we can also find ourselves in an immune compromised state, because sleep is what the body uses to recharge, and if we don't have the energy to power our immune system, then we get sick, and we don't want to get sick. So, couple of coping mechanisms. The first one I want to talk about is breathing. I keep on going back to breathing, but it is a very, very useful coping mechanism, because our cardiovascular system is very, very closely intertwined. Our heart rate and our breathing are very, very closely connected. And the reason for that is because these things that we feel are actually combat responses, okay? Thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, something would happen that would give us a reason to be in a fight or flight situation, and so our body would just kind of, on its own, autonomically start pumping blood faster, start hyperoxygenating our blood so that we were faster and stronger to either run away better or hit whatever it is that was trying to eat us over the head with a stick. And so this has carried over into the modern day, and there are times when it's very, very useful. There are times when it's very, very harmful and not particularly useful. So when we have an anxiety issue, an anxiety episode, one of the first things we want to do is we want to try to regulate our breathing, because by slowing our breathing, we slow our heart rate, and that will kind of bleed off the adrenaline and the combat responses, and it typically is very useful in terms of, if not canceling out the panic attack, then certainly ameliorating it. So what we want to do is, just like I've talked about in times past, just deep breaths, hold it and release. Count of 3 or 4, release, hold it out for a count of 3 or 4, and do that 3 to 5 times. And just, or, and not necessarily that hard number, but just until you feel yourself calming down, until you feel the energy bleeding off, until you don't feel so keyed up and you're twitching around at every little thing, because it's very unhealthy, and we want to be as healthy as possible. The other thing that I find is useful as a coping mechanism is this right here. I showed this in a couple of other videos. This is a gripper exerciser. I found this one at an apartment that I had back in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but you can get them. Yes, and the cat's making his contribution. He's kind of a cranky old coot. Bandit, please be quiet. But you can get something like this at any big box store, like say Target, or at your average sporting goods store, or even on Amazon for between $10 and $20. They make adjustable ones that you can dial the gripper strength up and down according to the strength of your hands. I have very strong hands, so I don't use an adjustable one, and I can hold this thing for like 30 seconds if I need to. There are people who know me that judge my day, how my day is going, by how much this is in my hand. Why this is very useful is because it gives us a physical outlet for our anxiety. We are basically responding in a combat-related manner. We are looking for a physical outlet for our fear and anxiety. We want to do something. This gives us a place to focus, and by doing this, we're also focusing on the now. We are being present. We have something tangible to direct our attention to, okay? And so what you can do is you can get something like this, or a stress ball, and very discreetly carry it around with you in your pocket or your purse, and if you start to feel keyed up, excuse me, you can just hold this in your hand and squeeze it. Typically, I will do it for about a 10 count, just like 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, all the way up till 10. Do whatever feels best for you, but basically I will do that until the anxiety bleeds off, and I will focus on this. And additionally, by focusing on counting, we're focusing on the math part of our brain as opposed to the thog smash part of our brain back here. Math, numbers, rational tool using person, scared ape looking for something to hit and run away from. So we want to put the processing power right up in here, folks. Math. Yay. Is there anything it can't do? Can't get me a Pepsi. But as I was saying, so that's a good coping mechanism. I found this very, very beneficial. The other thing we can do is we can have a dialogue with ourselves, and I realize that it's very difficult to be in a rational talking place when we are terrified of nothing in particular. But again, we want to focus on our rational tool using, language using parts of our brain. We want to take processing power away from the part of our brain that is a frightened monkey, and the best way to do that, and it's also is to have a dialogue with ourselves and simply say, look, you're safe. It's okay. You're safe. Relax. Just breathe. Work your program. Talk to yourself. Find a safe spot. Find a wall you can put your back to, or some little out of the way place, and just have a conversation with yourself. And if you feel uncomfortable having this, externally, literally talking to yourself out loud, excuse me, that's fine. But at the same, but there's no embarrassment in it. Okay, this is a medical condition, as I keep on saying, and yes, I keep on going back to that because it's true. It is a medical condition. They have done scans of the human brain that show that people with PTSD have different brains. Our brains are rewired differently from neurotypical people. This is a medical condition, and there is absolutely never, ever, ever anything to be embarrassed about in taking care of a medical condition. If you have the flu, you are not going to apologize for taking, for taking something that helps with the flu. If you have diabetes, you are not going to apologize for having to do your insulin. If you have cancer, you will not apologize for, for having to take your cancer meds. Same thing with your mental illness. This is a real medical thing. It can kill you, and your priority should be, whenever possible, to take care of yourself and monitor your health. And if having a conversation with yourself and saying, hey, Bob, everything's okay, like I talked about in the past anxiety video of, knowing that my boss has my back, just like that. Hey, Bob, everything's okay. The boss has your back. Don't sweat it. At my convention recently, people kept on coming up behind me. I had a buddy of mine come up and clap a hand on me. I caught myself from throwing an elbow into his face for it. And I had a dialogue with myself. Bob, this is a safe spot. Everything's cool. It's just your buddy Frank, not his real name. He's drunk. He's tired. He forgot. Everything's cool. And repeat that. Everything is okay. You're safe. You're in no danger. So, to recap, effective coping mechanisms: breathing, regulate your breath, which will regulate your heart, which will regulate your endocrine system, thereby causing the combat hormones to start to dial down to a more manageable level. A physical outlet, a tactical thing like a gripper exerciser or a stress ball or something of that nature that you can put your stress and your anxiety into, and possibly do some counting. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. At this point, we are using math. We are using language. A frightened proto-human with a stick in his hand is not using language. He's using, I'm going to hit the tiger and I'm going to run away while it's going, what was that? Why is my lunch getting away? Find a place where you can put your back to a wall, because we typically feel more at ease with our back to a wall because it's pretty hard to sneak up on somebody when their back is to a wall. Personal, direct dialogue with ourselves. Again, using our language to remind ourselves that we are safe. And above all, remembering that there is no shame in having PTSD. There is no shame in having any mental illness. We did not ask for this. And there is absolutely no embarrassment in taking the time for self-care. This is a real medical condition. We have a right to be healthy. We have a right to take care of ourselves. And that should be our priority. So, you folks have yourselves a great day. I'm going to sign off. I got a movie to go see. I will see you next week, and I hope this has been helpful. Catch you later. Bye-bye.